All right, it's time for the John Riggins Show on Friday, September 18th. Dexter Manley, John Riggins, and we're joined by special guest and teammate Redskins legend Joe Jacoby coming up for the John Riggins Show.
All right, thank you, Todd. Dexter, how you doing today? Good to see you as always. What's that?
Better than good, better than most.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Let me ask you something, Dex. Have you noticed that the change in the weather has changed your mood?
As long as I'm taking my medication, I don't notice the change.
Really?
Yeah.
So I see, this is where I was going to go with this, is that I didn't realize, this summer at one point in time here in D.C., the D.C. area, we had 27 consecutive days of 90-plus temperature weather.
Didn't feel like it.
Oh, Dex, you know what? And that's going to get me into a whole nother bag.
He's got some serious medication,
Dexter, listen, you live in an apartment, right?
Yes.
So the last time you mowed the grass was when you was 10 years old, probably, maybe, back in the hood.
Yeah, we had no grass.
I was going to say you cut it with scissors, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is that, let me tell you something. You spent no time outside this summer. I'd go out there, mowing the grass, whatever it was. I'm telling you what, it looked like I jumped in a swimming pool within about 30, 40 minutes. I mean, so for me anyway, 27 straight days got my attention. And I like heat. I've always loved heat. I love to play in heat. I didn't like to play in cold. You probably the same way. But I got to tell you, I guess maybe it's, getting up in age that I just couldn't handle it. But at the same time, I needed a break. I needed to see some cooler weather come in here. And all of a sudden, I kind of feel rejuvenated. And I was driving over here, I'm thinking to myself, now a lot of people that get to be my age and perhaps a little bit older, they go to Florida. That's where they live. They move, or they go to Arizona. And I don't think I could hang where it's going to be 80 degrees 365 days a year. How about you?
Yeah, well, John, you don't have to cut your own grass. Have O'Connor to come cut the grass.
Dax, they're plumbers.
Still.
They don't do.
I mean, Dexter, they're full service and the best at plumbing.
Yeah.
But that's where it starts and ends here.
First, I like to cut grass. I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, when it's 90-plus degrees, maybe that, and like I said, it's just, I guess, my age a little bit. But, yeah, I guess I can call O'Connor.
So you like the change of seasons, Riggo?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because you know what it is, and you lived in Houston, and there's not much of a change in season down there, correct?
No, it's not.
So you were brought up that way. So I'm in Kansas, northeast Kansas, and it was always like in the summer you get to about, and it's been that same way for me every year. You hit the late July, early August, and all of a sudden I go into a depression. And I've always thought, two things. One, it was always time to go back to school when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. Oh man, was that just like the worst? When it was like going back into the prison. He was out for a while. Yeah, summer's over. Just and then it got to be when I got out of school, it was like, got to go back and play football. Got to go to Carlisle. I got to give the county 30 days. You're like 2 a days. You're in lockdown. It just wasn't anything I ever looked forward to. Now, I don't know about you, Dex, but that's kind of the way my mind works. So It comes around now that, and then the fall would come and all that stuff. So it's kind of, in that regard now that I don't have, but it still comes on me. I still get that same lull in July and September, in August, because I know the school year's coming. It's funny how something like that is etched in your brain, imprinted somehow that it literally, I think I have kind of a little bit of a depression at that time of the year.
I got a question. Now, you took your daughter,
Coco.
Coco, did you take her to your school?
Yeah, we went through the whole deal.
Is it still there?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and tell you what, we uncovered some really amazing stuff. One of the things was, I don't know the gentleman's name.
So when you went back to Kansas this summer?
Yeah, we went back in late June, and we went back because I don't know. It's like, and we'll get into this one of these days, maybe not right this second. But I had a lot of friends that had odd names like Pig and Possum and Catfish and Herfy.
They sound like some brothers.
Yeah, see, everybody's got.
Dexter had similarly named friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, we all got a Rolodex with people like that in. But so she had to see where these people existed. Schnave, he was the local pharmacist, and also he made the best malt I've ever had to this day. Forget about it, Dairy Queen. Forget about it, B&R. Schnave was the man to see if you wanted a good malt. Yeah. But anyway, so we went through Centralia and saw all the sites that there are still left to see. Mm-hmm. But what's really weird, too? It's kind of now we're talking about this. Kind of sad. That
Don't start crying.
I'm not ready for that
You
yet.
got that
Dex.
crying towel, Dex. Show the audience your crying towel. You got your, but Dex still sweats a lot. Like it's fourth down and they're going
Not
for
as much because I'm not on the drugs. I'm on different kind of drugs.
He's high on life.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Anyway, back in these little towns, that they've just really started to peter out. That's really funny. When I was a kid, and I'm sure before that it was very similar, but in Centralia, which is always held pretty much a constant population of around 500 people, somewhere between 500 and 600 people. Do you know at one time there were four filling stations, where you could go and get gas. There were 3 grocery stores, 2 hardware stores, 2 drug stores, 2 doctors. I mean, it's like, and nowadays.
Now it's a Walmart.
Yeah, well,
and
no.
that's everything.
The IGA moved out to the corner.
What's the population? What was the population growing up there?
It was about 500 somewhere, maybe a little bit more. Whatever.
Dexter, he said 500.
Yeah.
You had more in probably 3 blocks.
In your whole neighborhood.
In the
you had
hood
500
is
people.
thousands.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
500.
Well, my graduating class was 26 people, and it would have been 19, but they closed the school next to us. I mean, this town next to us, so we got 7 boys from Vermillion.
Malt shop long gone.
Yeah, and that was probably because I told Coco about Chet Havely. That was the guy that was the druggist there. His wife was one of the doctors in town. That I told so much about Schnave and his malts and all that. And then we went in there and we walked. The store's still there. That building that was built in the late 1880 something. Wow. The building where he had his drugstore. But it was great. They had booths at the back of it, had a little candy counter there, and then you had where they used to have the soda jerks where you could. Stuff that's long gone. Something makes me think at some point in time that may come back around. Who knows? But I guess not, because it's too easy to drive in and just hand it out the window. And
Dexter, you know what a
going.
soda jerk is?
No, I don't know what a soda jerk.
That's like a bartender, basically, but he doesn't serve you, hard drinks.
They'd make you cola with the regular syrup, and you got to mix it with the right. So
I'm surprised you know that.
A little bit.
Huh? Where'd you go to a soda
Mayberry
fountain?
RFD, I think I learned it from.
Oh, okay.
Or
you never actually went to one.
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
So it was pretty much phased out by the time you hit the
I
break.
learned through TV.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, John. What did Coco take away from the trip?
I think she came away with the satisfaction of knowing she didn't really meet the characters themselves, but knowing and seeing the town where they grew up. And then we went over, because she hears me talk about it. It was funny because we went over to the high school, and when I was in high school, now this is over 50 years ago, they'd put all the graduating classes and they'd hang them in the hallways of the high school. Well, 50 years later, and I'm sure Centralia started in the early, there's about like 100 years of graduating classes. So then they had it was on a wall, and you had all these graduating classes, and you could thumb through it. And for me, that was the best thing of the trip, because I got to go back. Remember, I think I've told you about Alvin Milner. Maybe I've never mentioned the guy that rubbed my face in the snow. I always thought.
Can you imagine a dude rubbing Rigo's face in the snow?
Exactly. Well, listen, he was like a senior.
Was he
and I
a
was like
bully?
a 7th grader.
I
thought he was. Everybody was a bully in Centralia, Dex. You know what I mean? It's like you beat up the guy down below you. You got beat up
allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
No punks allowed.
That's what you learned out there. It was survival of the fittest.
So a senior picking on a 7th grader.
Yeah. Well, I did throw a snowball at his car, but I didn't think.
Oh, you do leave out a key detail.
You sound like Leave It to Beaver.
There was a little bit of Leave It to Beaver in my growing up, but I always vowed that I would get even with Alvin Milner, and I looked it up just the other day. And don't you know, Alvin rolled a 7 a couple years ago. I was because he ended up working at Goodyear in Topeka, and I thought I might just cruise through Topeka and say, "Hey, Alvin."
Now that would be funny. With your daughter Coco, take care of my life work.
Exactly.
Hey, what's rolling the 7? I don't understand that.
It's you died.
Oh, you died.
Like catching a westbound.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the dice game,
when you roll a 7.
I'm from the hood. I never shot dice.
okay.
Wait a second. There's
never.
got to be some dice playing.
Yeah, it probably is, but I never
just
played
never-
dice.
you
I never
wasn't-
played dice.
You was a straight shooter back in those days.
Okay, straight shooter.
Straight shooter.
You didn't vary to the left nor the right. Straight through the glorious upright.
I started veering when I came here as a rookie.
I got you. Okay, so the weather, we did that. I got one other thing here that I got to throw out. How often do you shave, Dex?
Maybe every 3 days.
And if you didn't shave, would you have a beard?
I'll have a gray beard.
And would it be pretty thick and all that stuff?
Probably not.
What's the longest you've let it go?
I never had a beard. I don't grow a beard.
Dexter's a clean cut.
There
He wants to
you go.
maintain that handsomeness. I've noticed.
Yeah, exactly. The boyish look.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into some of that later with the new segment we have on the John Riggins Show. We go back old school. And,
Would you believe it? I'm more conservative than most people would think.
No, I can believe that.
Yeah.
absolutely.
But anyway, the reason I say that is because this is the beauty of playing football, Dexter, and really never having a life. I should say a professional life. Do you realize since I've been in, I guess it was always when you're a kid, you can hardly wait to shave because that means, hey, I'm an adult now, So you're 14, 15, you keep looking in the mirror and you're looking to see, is there any whiskers yet? And then you go, oh, I think I see some. Get that lather. Got to get my dad's razor and shave. But there was nothing there.
No. Oh, hell, another pimple?
Yeah, exactly. Cut myself. And you get older and you shave, but then you get to a point where, at least for me anyway, you go, it becomes a true nuisance having to shave. If you're a person that, isn't growing a beard, obviously, even then most people trim their beards, not everybody, but there's work that has to be done. Well, I used to be, and you may know what this stuff is, but when I went to the Jets, the
Magic shave.
Huh?
Magic shave.
That's it.
It
And man, you can smell that stuff a mile away.
What is magic shave?
It's for the brothers.
Yes.
Because they
razor bump?
They get bumps.
they curls up.
Ingrown?
Ingrown,
razor bumps?
Yes. And I got the same thing. I used to get the same thing, but I meant when I smelled that stuff, and then I had a couple of players say, "Oh yeah, but it lights your face up," and I'm thinking it's a depilatory. Basically, it burns the whiskers off.
Oh,
it's a chemical. It's a chemical deal. I think exactly. I wasn't into that, so I started shaving. Go ahead.
Depilatory. What? See, you keep coming in with these big words, John.
Well, I'm not
you
even
gotta
sure.
Remember, I'm from the hood.
I make them up, Dad. I like making stuff up. What I meant by that was, and I don't know if it's a word.
Depilatory?
Yeah, I think it's where it's like you put on and it makes the hair go away.
Yeah, just say Boy George.
Boy George. Okay.
That's the makeup.
yes. Okay.
You disguise yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, but go ahead.
That's what's that? A hood term, Boy George? I've never heard of that.
No. That's just my thing.
Dexter's used that for years, that he was hiding certain things with his Boy George makeup.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where was I? I was with the shaving and the depilatory. So I started shaving with a straight edge. But the truth of the matter is that I've been so fortunate. I shave like once a week, maybe 10 days. It depends on how far I can go with it. I've always looked at that. I'm thinking of the guys that have the really heavy beards that are in an office job where they got to wear a suit and a tie.
Yeah.
Having to shave. How often do you shave, Todd?
It used to be every day. And pandemic now, different times, now every 2 or 3 days, I get away with it. Hate shaving. Hate it.
Yeah, there
Hate
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. But what I was going to say, I never knew this, but it's true. If you really want to get a good shave, you got to shave twice.
Prince Charles, he has his guys, he gets like a royal shave like 2 or 3 times a day.
What?
Yeah. Look it up. Little known fact.
Now you've made my day, Todd.
All right.
You get somebody to shave him 2 to 3 times a day with the hot lather, the hot towel, the whole deal.
It's good to be the prince.
God, I guess it is.
That's right.
We missed out on
Hey,
something.
Prince Rigo, King Rigo, what do you think?
Yeah. Well,
Prince Rigo.
yeah. Anyway, we got a game this weekend, guys, right?
The 1-0 Washington football
Against the
team.
1-0.
1-0.
That's a 0, by the way, Todd. That's a 0. Guy Grizel, my math teacher in high school, would just
No,
get,
1-0.
He would get
It's a 0.
inflamed. He said, "That's not a letter. That's a number. It's a 0. It's a 0."
He's 100% correct.
Yeah.
So I hear people say, "Oh yeah, they're 10-0." I'm going, "They're 10-0. They're 10-0." Guy Grizel lives on.
See? Centralia lives on.
Yeah, it's still there. Anyway, yeah. So you got, this is going to be. It's great in the sense that Washington really, you have to have a real appreciation for what they pulled off this past Sunday against the Eagles. You're going in there, you're facing an experienced quarterback who at one point in time they're talking about maybe he's going to be the MVP of the league a couple years ago. He did so. And really since that game, he really hadn't developed all that much, Carson Wentz. But even at that, they get up 17-0, and this team battled back with their defense. And and with a timely offense, an offense that took advantage of the mistakes that the defense created, and now you're going against a team that is kind of coming out of a cloud that has been, out there in the desert. 2 years ago, I think they were 5-11 or something like that. They weren't very good, the Arizona, and they improved, and they didn't win many games last year. I think it was about the same record.
I think they went three and what?
Yeah, it wasn't much, but they got a quarterback that's going to cause people problems, and I guess there's a long-winded way of saying big test this weekend, I think, in a lot of ways. And a lot of interesting matchups, the way I look at it, because I think the Cardinals, before the season's out, people are going to say, based on, as long as their quarterback stays healthy, they're going to have a pretty good offense, I think. Their defense is kind of suspect. So it's almost like there's really two good matchups here.
Opposites.
Yeah. You've got
Cliff Kingsbury and their offense, very potent, upset the 49ers.
Yep.
On the road
San Francisco.
in San Francisco last week. So Kingsbury comes in last year. Kyler Murray, #1 pick. Last week he threw for 230 yards and a touchdown, ran for 91 and another score. And they had to fight back a couple of times in the fourth quarter to knock off the 49ers. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this: the Redskins will have their hands full this weekend. I'm sort of the belief that they have to rotate these defensive linemen because this guy he moves around a lot, and that wears and tears on the defense. So, not put football clear, to put track shoes on come Sunday.
Oh, I think you're 100% right about that, Dexter, and that's where it does get kind of interesting. Although I remember the coach Kingsbury saying something to the effect about Murray, that he was really proud of what he did on Sunday, because in a lot of ways San Francisco's they have 34, I can't remember, or a 4-3. They're 34, I think, aren't they, San Francisco? But they're front.
So.
34.
They're a vertical team defensively. And basically what he was saying about Murray was that that he hung in there the whole game and did what he had to do for them to get a win. And so, this kid, not unlike Haskins, has got another year under his belt. Both came into the league at the same time. And, he's kind of riding a little bit of a wave here. I've never seen him play, to tell you the truth, but I don't know for sure, but I got a feeling that he's a guy that maybe runs a little better than he passes right now, but still can certainly throw the football and get that done. But if you give him half a chance, he's going to hurt you with the run, which – when you look at the defense that Washington now puts on the field, in some ways, they are that defense looks to me like it's really made to go after a guy like Carson Wentz. 8 sacks later, you say, but now it's going to be into how do they handle a scrambler? That's going to be a big test, because nowadays there's as many scramblers as there are drop-back passers. In fact, and the combinations of the two.
Well, if he's more Patrick Mahomes, if he's more that route where he's not thinking to run first, but he knows he's always got that to bail out, but his arm's good enough that you still have to respect that. So it's really strength versus strength, right? You mentioned the Washington front seven. Clearly, that's the strength of this football team.
That's the strength of
the whole team, correct, not just the defense.
So DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver they got, like I said, we talked about for a can of corn. He set a record in his debut with the Arizona Cardinals, most catches.
What did he get, 14 or something like that?
I think it was 16 or 14, but set records.
It was in the teens.
So, Murray can run. You got passing. Their offense is ranked 6th overall. 6th overall after week 1. Washington football team offensive rank, total offense ranked 32nd.
Right, they're dead last.
32 teams, okay? So Arizona's defense is ranked 17th. Washington football team, I have not said Redskins once until I just said that. I'm kind of proud of myself. Skins defense, Washington football team's defense is ranked 4th. So Dwayne Haskins and squad should be able to light it up. They're going against a weaker defense, and conversely, Skins D. It's going to be interesting to see which side dominates.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing, they have to keep Kyler Murray inside. They can't let him break the containment. It's all over.
I'm wondering too, but a guy like him, he's really slippery, isn't he? It's kind of like Lamar Jackson in some ways. Not quite as big. I get the impression he's a little bit shorter. But I would think, actually,
Russell Wilson-esque. That's another comparison, I think, with his arm, his ability to throw, his size, and his escapability.
He reminds me of Michael Vick somewhat, but Michael Vick's just a better runner.
Yeah.
faster, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right.
But Vic was straight line speed. I think Murray, like I said, I haven't really seen him play. Something makes me think that he's a little bit like, for a quarterback, he's a little bit of a jitterbug. That's why I say, like Jackson.
They say he's very tough to tackle. He's got that sixth
Now
sense.
you see him, now you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
Wasn't that Fran Tarkenton, too, back in the day?
Yeah, he was. I think Fran Tarkenton was the original scrambler. I mean, that guy would give off 20 yards sometimes.
Right. Just run in. You remember Dex seeing Fran Tarkenton?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw him in the Super Bowl V.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins
Right,
and the Minnesota Vikings. I snuck in that game as a kid.
Oh, that's right. You told us how that was your motivation.
Yeah, I stuck in, and I sit behind Johnny Carson.
What? You did get a good seat, didn't you?
I did. The brother.
How'd you pull that off?
I was a little kid from the hood. Just snuck
And they wouldn't say, "Hey, kid, get out of here.
Yeah.
Where's your ticket stub? I ain't got one." All right, you're okay. You can
I'm
stay
here with Uncle Johnny.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
So the matchup, and we got to see more out of Dwayne Haskins. He was another stat. The one thing every sport has now are these mind-numbing stats that so much of them I don't pay any merit to. But clearly, we saw it how wild he was. His off-target percentage of 30% in Week 1 was ranked 31 out of 32 quarterbacks. And clearly, we all saw it with our own eyes, and it's a major area of improvement that is needed.
In other words, accuracy.
Yeah. So, again, going against the Cardinals' defense that is vulnerable, so it's time for the offense and Dwayne Haskins to step up.
Yeah, and getting back to what we were talking about as far as these matchups go, from my perspective, nothing's ever set in stone when it comes to sports, I don't think. I mean, you can get a tendency and a trend. Maybe it'll follow through. Maybe it'll fall apart. But you would think, if the defense plays well against the Cardinals, and that to me is the most critical aspect of this whole thing in my mind. I'm thinking if the offense, let's just say if this somehow would turn into a shootout, I don't think that's necessarily a good omen for Washington's football season. I would say, if it's a low-scoring game and maybe they lose, say, 21-17 or 17-14 or something like that, and you're kind of going, hey, listen, you're at least going to be in all these games, and if the defense, as they did this past weekend, gets the teams to commit enough turnovers, mistakes, do whatever, you're always going to have a chance to be. And then at that same time, you got to figure that the offense will come along. But I think the one thing you don't want to have is a breach in your defense early on in the season, because I think it's going to, make things will start to unravel. And Dex, if we were on that team, I would have to believe that we would be feeling pretty damn good about ourselves, having won the way we did. Now, you'd be feeling a lot better about yourself because you would have been part of the 8-sack total. Probably would have had about 7 of them yourself.
Thank you.
And me, I would have been going, I better show something this next week. But as a team, and Coach Gibbs would have said, hey. And it's me. It's me. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. No, I just had to do a little Joe Gibbs imitation. But we would have felt, as a team, you're kind of going, well, and that's that's the approach that you would take. So this reflects back on Ron Rivera, that if they get the win and they do it in a way that the offense didn't do exactly what they were supposed to do, like light it up or at least be somewhat present out there. They at least capitalized on the mistakes that the defense created, and I think that's a big plus, and they can grow from that. So, like I said, I think this gives you a little bit of insight into the future of how this team's is gonna shake out this year.
Well, I tell you what's going to be a key is that I don't know what kind of season Larry Fitzgerald, but I still think he's very productive and can be a threat.
Yeah, can't sleep on him at all.
Right.
What year is this for him? 17?
It's ridiculous.
About
Another
15,
Iron Man.
15, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I mean, you look at a guy like him, though, and I guess Jerry Rice was similar in that regard. He played for a lot of years, but, I mean, his skills were starting to go down demonstrably. Yeah. I thought, what he went to Oakland to begin with and then to Denver, Seattle. I guess it was Seattle. I mean, he was just bouncing along there at the end.
He was just picking up a check.
Exactly. But you know what? I take my hat off.
Salute Mr. Rice.
Every day I'll salute that eagle screaming on payday. But I would say, and I haven't seen him play this year, but there's something about Fitzgerald. See, I guess it's more in our minds that we think that players in football, that they get, I think it's just the coaches and the colleges that are coming out with new players and guys get replaced, or maybe not, but he seems to still have, I think, a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus he was always he's not unlike Jerry Rice, very skilled receiver. The routes he runs, just they're basically their patterns you show in antiquity is that this is the way you run an out.
Well, taking the pressure
the
off,
hands.
A second-year rookie quarterback to have that kind of guy, and now with DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, that's
all you got to do is get the ball close.
That is formidable.
Yeah.
Well, the Vegas has the Cardinals given 7 points to Washington football team, and the money is heavy.
So it went up.
Yeah, well, it started out at 6.5 when we talked on Tuesday, and now the Lions got it at 7. This is Washington. It's their first time, if they were fortunate enough to win, to go 2-0 since 2011. So that's a big stretch. And one little betting tidbit for those that like to place a little wager too: the total points scored in the game has gone under in 9 of Arizona's past 11 September games. So they don't exactly light it up. And the score you mentioned, Riggo, of Cardinals 21-17. That's actually what I'm seeing by a lot of prognosticators out there, that they think that it's going to be that type of game.
So that Washington will cover, but they're going to lose.
Exactly.
The biggest thing I don't think is that Washington has to go out and continue doing what they're doing. I mean, let's face it. In my opinion, if they go out there and get run out of town by the Cardinals, then all of a sudden the great feeling you had this week, it's all lost. So it's kind of weird how pressure builds. They've got to just relax, play their game. But if for some reason, that things start to unravel, then that sets your whole season back as far as I'm concerned. And yet a win on the road against the Cardinals, it's so disparate between what do you call it, the positives that you get out of victory.
Right.
Now, losing is not going to, but if you get into a blowout, in other words, you get ripped out there, you got to come back and pick up the pieces. It isn't going to be that easy.
Well, the reality is that first half of football last week was not good.
It was not
offense
good.
or defense.
Right.
And so what's going to become, the definition of this team, and are they going to step up? Because we know how banged up Philly was.
And that's a great point.
And they took advantage of it.
The first half.
And absolutely. I mean, they were down 17-0, and that defense was shredded, okay? So as the injuries kept piling up, they adjusted. They came out a different ball club in the second half, and for that we salute. But
this is a different team offensively. Arizona Cardinals.
Arizona's got way more weapons and is far more healthier than Philadelphia. So that's where the rubber's going to meet the road.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why I'm saying for anybody that is going to watch the game, what you're going to look for is to see. Basically, was it just happenstance last week that Philly lost a bunch of offensive linemen, and all of a sudden this 8-sack deal was something that was a little bit more, what do you call it? I don't want to say a fluke, but to a certain extent, it was basically because they were injured and the competition wasn't as keen as it could have been.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm wondering.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we look forward to see what's going to happen this Sunday at 4:00. Coming up next, after a quick timeout, we're going to bring in your guys' teammates, your buddy, our friend Joe Jacoby, who's in town from Charlotte, North Carolina. Sit back and tell some stories and hear what the big man's up to right after
He's
this.
He's going to tell some stories about JR over here.
Yeah, he's got some about you, too.
Yeah, because you guys had to go head-to-head every day at practice.
We want to hear that.
Okay, well,
they made each other better.
After this brief message from O'Connor Plumbing.
Okay.
I hope you know that one of the biggest elections in our country's history is right around the corner. No, not that election. I'm talking about the Frederick News Post Best of the Best election. As you know, for the past several years, I've been working with the O'Connor Plumbing family. They are family-owned and operated, been that way since 1949, and here's what I found. I found that they come to your house, they do great work, and they do it at a fair price. What's not to like about that? Vote now for O'Connor Plumbing for Best of the Best at fredericknewspost.com. I'm John Riggins, and I do approve this message. Alrighty, we'll pick it up here, and I am very pleased to introduce, not that he needs an introduction, the all-time great Yeah, I think I can say that. The greatest offensive tackle for the Washington football team. Back then it was known by another name. Joe Jacoby joins us. 3-time Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? You got 3 Super Bowl rings.
Yes.
And you got 1 championship ring.
Yep. It's good to be here, guys. Good
And
to be
you're
here.
back against, I would say, somebody who certainly helped you get to the level of play that you reached. And, of course, Dexter, you can thank Jake for helping you get to where you got. I mean, when you think about it, guys, that was kind of, I'm sure Joe Bugle and Laverne Torgensen, he was your coach, right?
my
And then,
coach,
of course,
yeah.
maybe Richie a little bit, Pettibone. But those guys must have grinned when they had you 2 guys line up, knowing, I mean, you know, if you would have, there's another tackle that they drafted here in the first round in the early 80s. With Dexter going against him was such a mismatch that Dexter could have never got any better. But going against Jake, it was like Dexter's getting better, Jake's getting better. It's like it was a perfect storm, you might say.
Didn't you call him the condominium?
He is the condominium. But I met somebody just a year ago.
Yeah, but
He's-
it's under renovation right now.
The condominium?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 55 and older condo now.
Is he called him the condominium because?
Yeah. His size.
Okay.
His size. Yeah.
I'm glad you got us separated because I know he wants to get even.
Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, that reminds me of a joke. And the only reason I tell this joke, you remember years ago, well, you guys wouldn't. You're not old enough, I don't think. Jimmy Dean, does that name mean anything to either one of you?
Sausage guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sausage
Actor.
guy. But
Actor.
he actually,
After his
he was actually
musical
a singer,
career.
basically, I think. But maybe he did a little acting. He had his own hour on TV for a
Right.
while.
I
Show.
remember the show.
The Jimmy Dean show.
about the
but
business.
remember, his first big song was what? Big John.
Yep.
Big John.
Now listen, I'm going to tell this story, and the reason you're going to laugh is because it was a joke, and I remember I was at a high school basketball game, and I would have been in grade school. I was probably, 6th grade, maybe 7th grade when that song came out. It was probably in the late 50s, maybe early 60s, but I'm thinking late 50s. And somebody said, what do you call a 2-story outhouse? Talking about the condominium here.
Yeah, right.
Big John. And I sat, it was like 10, 15, maybe 20 years later one day, I'm sitting there, I'm serious now, and I went, oh,
He finally
I
got
get it.
He finally got
John.
it. Well, Dexter's still thinking Dexter's going to get it. Dexter's going to get because I saw Dexter finally goes.
We got a few
Yeah,
minutes.
that went over my
Dexter
head.
in 3
See, you're
podcasts.
like me, Dex.
In 3 podcasts from now, Dexter's going to go.
Haven't you ever heard somebody say, that, well, where are you going? I'm going to go to the John.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
See? Exactly.
What do you call it? 2-story?
Yeah, what do you call a 2-story outhouse, Big John? And I'm telling you, for 20 years, that joke evaded me, and then I zeroed in on one day. I thought,
That light bulb went on finally, huh?
it did. It shattered in my head. The light bulb was about the size
Were
of a
you at
Christmas
KU
bulb.
at the time when this happened?
I think I might have been playing professional in NFL. Yeah, that was rough. So anyway, Jake, what do you think this year with the burgundy and gold? I think that's a safe place we can ask that question and use that term.
Yeah. It's hard to use that term, but I guess everything, changes. We fight it, but then sometimes it turns out for the better. But I don't know if that's going to happen with this team. But I mean, they did start off pretty good last week, and then what happened, and they win that football game. There's still a lot of unanswered pieces, and I guess the main one for me is still the quarterback. I'm not sold on this kid back there at quarterback. Everybody raves about him. He does all that. I mean, and he only played, 12 or 13 games in college?
Yeah.
And
It's like, what do you call it? You get on-the-job training here.
So, I mean, he's still like he's in training camp or, going through the farm system as a baseball player, developing his skills right now. So we're watching him grow. Fortunately, the defense played pretty well this past week, and, I think they're going to rely on that defense till they get caught up with their offense.
Look, you've lived in Charlotte now for what, 2 or 3 years?
Hard to believe it's going on 6.
Is that right?
Yeah,
And you moved there from Chicago, correct?
from Chicago. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Did you? Well, I think I saw you at the game, one of the Panther games. Did you ever go to a Panther game when you was down there? I thought.
I did.
Gibbs was there at that game.
Well, matter
I
of
think?
fact, it was last year, I think. Skins played down there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Gibbs was at the game
Yeah,
too.
but
wasn't
he was there too.
Was that Rivera's last game? I think.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I wanted to ask
The,
is-
the Redskins beat him, and then
Could there
he
have been
was.
some insider trading there?
What
I
was
mean,
that?
that game, that loss is what sealed
That's
Rivera's
weird, isn't
fate
it?
Yeah,
down
it
in
was.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's up here and
Is Joe an ambassador or something? Well, he was in Carolina at that game.
He's ambassador of the
Oh,
NFL.
NASCAR.
Yeah,
his
NASCAR.
NASCAR
Well, he
team.
lives down there.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and then he was just there. Why I don't know. Joe had, 3 or 4 of his grandkids with him.
Yeah.
He was on the sideline. I mean,
He's recruiting Ron. He was
He
recruiting.
may need a
He
little
may have been. I don't
investigation.
know.
But that's what I wanted to ask you. But if that's the only game you went to, but obviously they were on TV down there. I don't know if you even bothered to watch them
No,
on Sunday
I don't
afternoon.
watch 'em.
So I was going to ask you what you know about Rivera. I mean, the fact it's so odd.
I met Ron at one of Joe's charity functions down there at the country club that Joe, and they had it for his prison ministry. And I think you were there.
I was there.
There was that, and then that's the time we met Ron. I think we all had the
But you met him
opportunity.
too, Dex, and you were
We all
there.
had the opportunity to talk with him because it was kind of a mingle cocktail thing before the show, the award show, whatever they were doing.
Was this in the last year or two?
It was
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, 2
okay,
years
so it's
ago.
fairly
Yeah,
recent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your take on it?
I mean, I think Ron's very personable. I think he felt out of place.
Yep.
Because it was all the
I was mostly us, the Redskins.
Washington
yeah,
people.
He
so-
should fill out of place. We kicked their butts.
kicked whose butt? Carolina?
Ron.
It's with the Bears. when
I
he
don't
played.
think we did that. Not while I was there. 1980.
Well,
what
we
was
made
it?
up for it after that one game.
Is that once, once they got rid of Rio, let's
I
go.
was, yeah, exactly. I remember the old the steamroller.
We
of a
lost here,
defense.
but we beat them twice up in their
Gotcha.
place.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And what was that? Oh, that was the game before the championship game, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was one of
Because
them.
I just read about it just in the last day or two. That's where Darryl Green returned a
Right.
kickoff
That was one
return.
of them.
Were you there?
No,
No,
I
no,
wasn't
you-
there. Was that wasn't the game where
That was
they
80,
played
80
where all the fog was? That was a
No,
different
no.
game they played.
That was Philadelphia played Chicago in the fall.
Yeah, yeah. What's your take on Ron?
I like Ron. I think Ron, because he played the game, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a good coach, but I think he's developed into that type of individual. We'll see. I don't know if he's to the point where he can, sort of like Parcells, at least he's got the
Buy the
opportunity.
groceries?
Yeah, he can buy all the groceries.
I think he
and-
can. Supposedly, that's the rumor.
Right.
Although
He's
there
what?
are,
I'm sorry?
But although, and this is an interesting situation, there's one part of this that doesn't still make sense, and that would be Alex Smith. When you talk about this, I don't see where Ron Rivera would necessarily think that he needs Alex Smith to be on the roster to take up
I agree with 100% with that.
a roster spot. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. There's nothing about that makes any sense to me. So my point is that I would say, well, he's got full control, almost.
Yeah.
I would be cautious.
I think that was Dan's decision to have Alex Smith on the roster.
Yeah, there's something about that I think is, I'm not sure. I mean, from my perspective, I think Alex Smith is a smart young guy, and has played a lot of football. But I for the life of me, I mean, there was a photograph I think of his leg short. I don't know how long afterwards, but it looked like something that was made in a meatpacking plant in Italy.
I've never seen
I
a
mean,
picture.
it was just. I mean, the word horrific doesn't really do it a justice.
It
What
almost looks like
like.
it's a prop in a
17,
Yeah, I mean,
17
yeah.
or 18 surgeries
Yeah.
or something he's
I
had.
mean, obviously he's been rehabilitated, but I don't understand his wanting to play at this point in his life.
Where were
because
his
he's
mental-
made what
mental
we
state?
say $300 million he should have in the bank someplace. He looks like
Yeah.
a conscientious guy. He doesn't look like he hits the pool hall real hard and goes to the racetrack. and-
Coming back and playing.
Yeah,
I mean, the physical part, yeah, that's always going to be an issue. I think I'm looking at it, of what he went through. How does it affect us upstairs? Stepping out on the field, am I going to be gun shy?
Well,
When that-
supposedly that part he's past that, but
Where? They haven't hit.
Well, you're right.
I mean,
You're
they're
right.
not in
One thing-
pads.
Well,
They haven't been in
but
pads
Ron
till they
Rivera
played the
said
first
that they
game.
let him and they were thundering by him and he stood tall in the pocket. So I'm just taking
they
what
were
the coach
thundering by
said.
him by
With
this bubble that
T-shirts on.
surrounded him.
Maybe.
With
maybe.
T-shirts on.
Huh? Well, you got a point. But, you know, if you look at it from that perspective, where when you look at it, in other words, I'm looking at it through his eyes. I'm going, what's my motivation here? I've played for 14 or 15 years. I've got all the money I need. I got a wonderful family. And I got a warning shot fired across my bow 2 years ago. Time for you to set it up, you know, go on off and fade off into the sunset.
Maybe this is the next progression for him to move into coaching, front office, or something
You don't
like
have
that.
to take up a roster spot to do that.
A valuable
don't you?
roster spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is, God
but
forbid.
Jake, give us
Arthur-
something. Give us something. You're
I mean,
not
from the
giving
team's
enough.
perspective,
Dexter, I like
He
that.
is.
You cut to the quick.
You know what? He's looking good holding that clipboard.
he is a good-looking guy. I'll give you that, and he does look good on the sidelines. But God, he could do that in he is in civilian clothes, but I mean, he doesn't have to be on the roster to do all the above. He can get all the on-the-job training he wants as a coach.
But didn't they change? Aren't the rules changed because through this pandemic, the rosters and different things?
Yeah,
How
there
that-
may be, but don't ask me what they are because I'm
I
not
don't
sure
know.
exactly. But I want to finish this thought
Go ahead.
with this from the team's perspective of what are they thinking? Because I mean, on the one hand, it's like I think it's not the same, but I'm going to use the analogy. It's like a boxer that's out on his feet in the ring. His corner guy's supposed to throw the white towel in and say, "Hey, get him out of the ring. He's going to get hurt." You would think the team would step in and say, and have a long talk and say, "Alex, we really admire your moxie and your courage and all the above, but it's enough, okay? You're going to get paid what you're due, but when we thank you for all your service or, for the year that that you gave us a part of the year, but enough is enough." And also from the standpoint that the other part of it is then we need that roster spot because, for us to put you into the game, then think about it. If you're a fan, and if they were to flash that picture and Alex Smith is in the game, you're going to cringe. You're going to cringe thinking it's going to be uncomfortable for people to watch, I think, if all of a sudden they start thundering and they're not in T-shirts anymore.
It's almost going to be like
It'll make me nervous, I will say that.
the guy that walked across the Grand Canyon and
Yeah.
on the tightrope.
The great Walinda. The great Walinda.
When we're sitting
And
there
you know
going-
what? The great Walinda, the old man, he tried it at age 70-something, and it didn't turn out well for him.
Dexter, he rolled a 7 as well.
Yes,
Okay,
he
he
rolled a
rolled a
7.
seven.
He went off the side. So,
And we
I'm
don't
not
want to
predicting.
see that. Nobody wants to see that, but the possibility that exists to the degree that it does is frightening.
Okay, Jake, you was a coach. Well, what kind of decision would you have made?
On
Bringing
him?
this on him as a coach.
Oh, I
Put
mean,
yourself as a head coach.
I like John's points on it. I agree with that. I question his mental, and then John says, well, they think he's past all that. Well, they say.
And
What
Jake,
does Alex say?
when you say mental, you're talking about how he feels on the field and going back and playing the game at its highest level.
Right.
If
That's
somebody
mental ability.
lands by that
Right.
leg
Right.
on the field, what's he do? Does he jump right away and forget the receiver downfield?
Yeah, is it missing his reads and how he's going to play? The physical part, yeah, that's always going to be a risk. It doesn't matter, that he went through all this, yes, but it's still going to be an issue. The issue for me is how is he handling that? And we're hearing from them, well, he passed that. So what do? They got him hooked up to electrodes and stuff, and they're measuring his brains and waves and all
AI,
that.
baby, AI.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible.
But Jay,
doubt it, but it's
I want to
possible.
get your perspective as you was a coach.
I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, okay,
I agree with you.
that's
You
what
wouldn't
I'm
even have
saying.
him on the
That's
roster,
what I'm
would you?
No, I think it's time to go. We
Right.
appreciate that.
Well,
You
and
did
here's
what you
the other
did.
part of it, guys. What if? I mean, think about this. If you want him on the roster, shouldn't he at least be number 2? What's he number 3 for? He's got all the
Because
experience.
that way he can't play. So that's the mockery of it
What
all.
is this?
He's third quarterback. Third quarterback doesn't get the dress unless you. So it's a mockery.
It's a mock. Yeah.
Maybe
But,
he, maybe
what's
he
the-
has
but somebody help me with the idea. What is the point? Somebody help
He may
me.
have a deal
why,
with a clothing
Why would they
line.
be doing this? I mean, this is something that I don't know. Has the press even explored this?
No.
It's like hush hush.
Because listen, we're not saying this to be. This is cold hard facts and about business.
Right.
And his lifelong health, and nobody wants to see this end badly. But all
Correct.
the feel-good story for all the effort that he is trying to do this. They want to make this into something that is, it is going to have this happy ending again. And I hope we never see him on the football field
Correct.
again.
Absolutely
period.
not. Yeah, I agree with 100% what you're
Unless
saying.
it's for him to get why he would do this, to get a credited season so he can retire with that
He
extra
doesn't
year.
need it.
I understand he
He's
doesn't
made over
need it.
$300 million
Okay,
in
but
his
the
career.
point is,
We're close to it.
they signed him, bring him back on. They put him on the active roster, and in 2 or 3 weeks, they put him down.
Like
Well,
a horse?
it's a-
Yeah.
What are we talking-
Well, they can do that. I mean, it's
broken
sort of
leg.
like
That
the
is what
horse
they
at the
do.
Derby. He just reared up and.
If he was a horse, he is not running.
There is
Yeah.
a ditch out there behind the park. I
If he was a horse, he
And I've
wouldn't
seen
make the-
players being
He
led
wouldn't
out
have been
there
on the
in
active roster either.
Yeah, there's a creek out there that runs through the park that I don't want
bodies.
to be presumptuous.
Heap of
I
bodies.
just don't get it. I mean, to me, here's a team that's trying to win, and basically their message after the debacle that they've been for 20 years is we got it going now. We're doing things the right way.
Change culture.
This is so obvious not the right way on so many levels for so many reasons. It defies explanation. I mean, really, let's face it. The feel-good story is Alex Smith is up walking around and he has use of his extremity, the lower leg that he broke. That's the feel-good story of the year. It should stop right there. I don't think that this has to go to this isn't a movie, guys. This is a person's life. I
Right.
mean,
Maybe they are filming. I don't know.
Oh, they
I'm
are.
sure
How
they
do you
are.
think they got the documentary, for one? And again, not to.
well, I
it's
guess,
just,
yeah. That'll be the sequel. I mean, I just don't, you don't even want to think about it. And maybe everything would be fine. Maybe, but boy, I'll tell you what. I know this much. If it was me, little shorty here, I'd be at home right now with that cigar you was talking about and a can of beer, and I'd be counting my money. Okay, one,
What's
2
the
million,
denomination?
3
you wanted?
million,
You wanted it
4
one,
million.
so it really lasts a long time.
Exactly.
Hey, Jake,
Exactly.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
In your opinion, who have been the top 3 left tackles in the game? Give me the top 5.
Well, it starts with him.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I want him to
Now,
tell
are
me.
you talking historically or playing today?
I think he ought to give you who the best defensive ends that he
Yeah.
faced.
Let me hear your
How
top.
do you think you'd have went against him in a real game? What was practice like going against each other?
Well, in
I asked
practice,
you
we
first.
only saw each other during one-on-ones and
Yeah,
stuff. Very seldom do we did one-on-one. I mean, like first against first.
yeah.
We did that sometimes.
I tried to get you to be brother-in-law, but you didn't want a brother-in-law.
Oh, brother-in-law, man. Doc had you all fired up
We
to
can
go.
work together.
Now,
I can work with
a
that.
couple of things.
That's because, you know what? You didn't pay your union dues. That's why.
All right, so 2 things.
They had the blood pill they would buy. Everybody goes,
So-
oh,
so
wow,
for-
they're really going at it now.
For the fans out there, Dexter, explain what brother-in-law means. When you're in the practice like that, you're. And
Jake gonna take that from me. I'm passing. it
brother-in-law,
on to
you
Jake.
kind of
Tell him
dance.
what-
Brother-in-law, it really is that Dexter was my dance partner, and it depends on who was leading. They had to follow the steps. There
Right.
was,
Yeah.
and there was no wine was made and no grapes were crushed.
There you go.
So you guys are looking out for each other, whispering sweet nothings into each other's ear. I'm going to go left. Let's go
Oh well,
left.
see, you got to have the sound effects. And Dexter had it coming off the ball, and then we got to engage with each other. And then you did the other grunting and stuff like that, and then,
right.
you
And
know,
then
a
what'd you
couple
figure
seconds
out?
you're over.
Right, but then what? Eventually, somebody's got to look like they might have been getting the better of the other guy.
Right.
Every once in a while,
You
then
can't
throw
just
it back.
have a stalemate.
You throw it back and forth.
Right.
See, I tried to do that every game that I played. I tried to work with the defense every play, Dexter. I swear this is true. I'd go out there and kind of go, okay, how we doing this today, guys? I mean, I can work with you. Listen, we can be friends. We can.
Was that with Joe Gibbs or Jack
That was what
Pardee?
I played, I don't know, 170 some games, I think. I don't know how many for sure. But I guarantee you, every play, the first play of every game I played, it was, I was a little Mr. Tentative out there, like, okay, are we going to really? Oh, and then somebody would just like, bong, and I'd go,
What's the night's dance card look
okay,
like?
you guys are so unreasonable. We're going to have to do it that way. Okay, let's go.
Now, and then the other part is part of the lore of you guys when you weren't doing your brother-in-law dance.
Yeah.
One Rick Doc Walker liked to instigate and knew how to push your buttons, which then he had to say, okay, brother-in-law's off. So tell me about that.
Yeah. I let Jake go.
Yes, Rick Walker was our Don King.
That's right.
Let's get ready to start.
That makes perfect sense.
And
Makes perfect sense.
Rick would work the practice field, and he would walk up where the receivers and quarterbacks and stuff. He goes, "Hey man, you got to come down here. Jake and Dex are going to go at it." So I mean, he's drumming up the audience and stuff like that.
That's going.
And
That's
Doc
going. I
was-
got 3 over here. I got.
Doc was even selling popcorn and stuff. So, but that got Dex, and Doc knew which buttons to push on him. And so Dexter's working.
Oh, you didn't
his-
have buttons to push?
No, my buttons was my only button I pushed on was on and off. And I turned it on, and just to get through. And then I knew I just had to play the game, and then trying to get you to understand we play on Sunday, not on Wednesday.
So what did Doc use to get you all harangued?
I don't know. But
Oh well, Doc would throw these little
Hip shots?
tidbits.
Here's one.
Of what
Hey, Dexter.
Jake was due to him. He's
Hey,
kicking your butt.
Here's
Dexter.
one. Hey, Dexter. Guy that didn't even get drafted is whipping your butt.
And that's Doc. And he did that, and Dexter would. I mean, he didn't buy it all the time.
No,
There were certain times that Dexter's, ain't happening. And then we did our brother-in-law routine.
Okay.
Well, getting back to Dexter asked you the question about offensive tackles, which is, in your opinion, as you've watched the game over the years.
Over the years, of course, you got the kid out of Baltimore, big kid.
Jonathan
Ogden?
Yeah, he's
I
big.
wanna tell you about
He's
him.
bigger than me.
Yeah. I was just at a show with him last year. He got like 6'10".
Yeah.
His has 2 sides.
That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
But I said,
You mean you
Jake,
couldn't crush him out on a handshake?
Yeah, no, I
Did you try?
Come
I didn't
on,
even
you
try.
didn't try?
I just told him,
Oh,
Jake.
Dad.
Dexter Manley.
I feel like Joe Jackson. Say it ain't so, Joe.
I told him Jake was better than him, and
He
I
goes,
did.
who's Jake?
Yeah, you.
I know that, but he asked who's
Yeah,
Jake.
yeah. Well, I told him Jacoby.
Yeah.
But anyway, he got a little ticked off, and it was fun. It was fun.
Well, I
That's what I'm saying.
think
Battery's
he's
a
up
lot
there.
better.
Of course, the one that everybody picks, and great guy, nice guy, is Anthony Munoz, good tackle. The one that really impressed me more, and you played against him when we played the Falcons, was Mike Ken. Mike Ken wasn't much of a run blocker, but he was a good
was
pass
excellent
blocker.
pass protector.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
he was lighting
and
the
he
britches.
played 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
So I thought he was good. The other one out of the Cardinals, Lewis Sharp.
Yeah, he was a good pass protector.
Oh, yeah.
Lewis was pretty good. These are guys that don't get recognition. Mike Ken, Lewis Sharp. I mean, they play steady. Lewis played in our division, too. I mean, he
Yeah.
went.
Well, let's face it, the offensive line. Nowadays, it may be changing a little bit because they've accented the passing game so much.
Right.
But offensive linemen, that's one of the most difficult positions to play. Well, at one time it is, and maybe it still is, as far as getting recognition goes. You might as well forget about it. I mean, because so often a guy has a good year, and then he gets voted into the Pro Bowl. And all of a sudden, it's like the Pro Bowl time. Oh, who made it last year? Oh, well, let's just write his name. It's like, it's very difficult. So what are you going to do? Is everybody going to sit there and look at a film? The other stuff is all statistics, defensive lineman. How many sacks does he have? Okay, well, he must be an all-pro. It ain't really, like I said, it's pretty sloppy when you think about how they all come to all these conclusions. I'll tell you a guy, and there's several of them, but you guys are young enough. There was a tackle, and I want to say that he played for Philly, but I can't remember for sure. Bob Brown. Does anybody remember that guy?
I remember Bob Brown.
Because he was like back in the day. I mean,
He had the
he
big
was
club.
Huge. Right, he was huge.
He used
Big
his
guy.
hands and
Yeah, there was some. And
He
there
was
was,
doing
but
the
that was
slap.
back. And you guys played. Could you head slap? Was the head slap
no.
still legal?
No, that was outlawed when
They'd
we came.
outlawed it by the time you guys got in. I
but
think
he
when I
still
first
used
came
it
in,
anyway.
Sometime.
On me, every day in practice.
Jake's like, they're going to call this in the game, Dexter. Knock it off.
Hey, Jake, where you rent Trent Williams up in there in that game? Is he in that elite group that you talked about?
No.
No, I didn't think so. He's not an excellent run blocker.
No, I saw something on him this.
But you
last
know what?
couple of days.
Here's
Yeah, he's
that's something
past
we
pro.
should tell the people that are watching the podcast. And we played in a different. I played in a different era than even these guys played in. But our era was much more similar than the era they play in today.
Right.
And the one thing, and I was always critical of Trent Williams, and I think I wasn't giving him his due from the standpoint of the way they play today. Today, it seems to me, particularly, at least this was his game, he's a finesse player.
Right.
He's a really gifted athlete, got great feet on him, he can run and do it. So he basically played basketball. When the ball was snapped, he would just get in and screen people off. That's all he did. Or he'd get around on the edge and get out in front of guys and screen people off. It wasn't like, when you lined it up. And this is what I've always said is, the team has notoriously been bad in short yardage situations since I don't know how long, goes back, way back, at least while Trent was here. And if he was such a dominant tackle, that's like automatic. You run behind this guy and you get your first down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
No, I agree with you on that. The level of play has went more from that
Power.
There's no
power
real,
football.
Yeah. There's no real drive blocking.
No, there's not. And to this,
and everybody
who's a
plays
bastard
high.
plays screens.
Yeah,
and
everybody
stuff.
plays up here. It's all leverage. Well, it always has been leverage when you think of that because it is physics. But basically everybody's standing straight up for the most part.
They are.
All right, guys, we're going to try a new segment here on TJRS, the John Riggins Show, for those that are not familiar with TJRS. Now, I know you guys are big fans of some of the creative stuff that the geniuses at ESPN have launched over the years, like, Monday night. Come on, man. They do that segment.
Never have got that, but
yeah, I know Riggo's huge fan of that one. And then you also got Mossed, right? Where they play the plays where
does that mean where somebody puts a move on somebody and gets by him?
Yeah, named after Randy Moss.
Yeah,
so
that's what I thought you were going.
the creative geniuses here at TJR. So we're going to do a little segment called "What Were You Thinking?" Now, with that, we culled through the archives of photographs that we have of you guys at various stages of your careers. Some that are very poignant. So we might be like, "Hey, what were you thinking at that moment in time? That historical moment. What was going through? What was your moment? How'd you feel?" Then we got some where we're going to be like, "No, seriously, what were you thinking?" And so we got Jacoby in here as our guest, and I think people are going to get a real kick out of that. Now, so I want to do a little descriptor since this is an audio podcast and a video podcast or a vodcast. So let's kick it off here.
This is the story of my life, by the way,
And,
Todd. Happens about 4 times a day.
So
My wife asked me.
And on this one, so Riggo, take a look at the screen here.
Oh,
Dex,
beautiful.
Dex, can you see that? So this is.
This what were
is
you
the
thinking?
I was.
Well, let me set it up first.
That's cultural appropriation.
Multiple cultures.
Back when you could get away with it.
This is Riggo's mohawk look, and John, tell us what.
But
year
I've
was
taken the
that?
mohawk to a whole nother level here. If you'll notice, very stylish, really shaved off around the sides, typical mohawk. But if you'll notice, there's a little crease down the middle, much like the parting of the Red Sea. A little touch I had there. See, my hair's a little curly, so I thought, hey, what the heck?
Is
Now,
that
this
braided?
this actually, what was I thinking? I'll tell you exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, and it starts here. That mohawk was grown in. I started with a shaved head. That's doing it the hard way. I look at guys with mohawks. How long you had that mohawk? Oh, I went down to the barber, got it yesterday. Get out of here.
You
That's
shaved
not-
your head completely bald first, and
Yes.
then grew it in.
Yes, slow process.
Then he had to
And I
shave
used to-
every day.
And I didn't shave with a straight edge back then, thank God, because that wouldn't have been good. But I used to have to get a mirror, and I would hold the mirror here to look in the mirror behind me. I had to use 2 mirrors to do the back. I did it myself. Needless to say, I had a little stubble. I don't think
you
about it
know
once
what?
a week. But here's what that was all about. When I was a little kid, about 6, 7, 8 years old, Walt Disney had a show on with Fess Parker. It was the Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
Davy Crockett.
King of the
Mingo.
Wild Frontier.
It's Mingo.
Well, so when I saw that, and I saw for the first time, I saw the Native Americans, the Mohicans with a mohawk, I said, I guts to get me a mohawk. Well, that got tamped down by
You
Mom
look
Paul.
like that character from that show. I'm serious. That's what I was thinking when I saw that.
Now you got the necklace going too.
Yeah, that's
is
a
that an
squash
Indian?
blossom. That's a squash blossom necklace made by the Navajo.
Hey, why I don't know what you guys talking about?
Well, so anyway,
Dexter never
that
liked
was
TV
that
before.
was that mohawk was a little gift to my father.
Okay.
Because he had just basically been that guy where every time you did something, you had to look over your shoulder, and that was like, "Hey, pops, ain't looking over my shoulder no more."
Oh,
how do you like me now?
that's a sign.
Toby Keith, how do you like me now?
Okay.
That's a sign. So what year is that?
1973.
How old were you? How old were you?
What, 73? I've been 24 years old.
So
going on 24.
And there's other famous pictures with you with that look, and you're on the bench. Were you injured?
No, I was sitting at a camp. What I did was I'd been down on the river, Blue River in Kansas, fishing for about 2 or 3 weeks, camped out down there, like a guy with a mohawk should be, camped out someplace, living in a tent.
With your tomahawk.
And so then I take the train back to New York. Gave him a little curveball. Everybody expected to see me fly in. I just took the train. And so I go back to negotiate my contract with Weeb. And while I was back there, the team had an exhibition game in St. Louis. So I flew with the team to St. Louis. We negotiated the deal, and nothing ever came. And I flew back, and then I went back home. So I'm sitting on the bench in a what do you call it, an exhibition game at Busch Stadium. That's where that photograph was taken.
Huh. So what was Weeb Eubanks?
What was he thinking?
What was he thinking when he saw Mohawk John?
When I came in, then I finally sat out. Finally my dad finally got to me. Although I didn't get rid of the mohawk, because I was getting ready to quit football. I was going, I don't need to do this. I'm going to do something else with my life. And I go back to New York because I went, all right. I could see my dad was like, well, that's okay, because he was. Your parents are proud of you. You're doing something. My older brother was groomed to be a Major League Baseball player, and it didn't quite work out for him. So here he was. He's going to kind of let the family down, so to speak. So I went back, and I remember Weeb saying when I walked into his office at Shea Stadium to figure out, okay, how much are you going to pay me? And I was pretty much at that point was like, okay, I guess I'll take whatever they give me, which I did. But Weeb always said he thought it was like when the Dutch bought Manhattan from the Indians. It's like what he felt like he was negotiating. He was a Dutchman. So yeah, he got a kick out of it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Dexter Manley.
Okay.
What were you thinking, Dexter? When Dexter has a mohawk as well.
Yeah. Well,
and he cut that in. He didn't grow it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I got the idea from Rigo.
What year?
That was 1983.
Yeah, that was.
But I saw, I saw footage of John with a mohawk.
Well, his was 10 years prior.
Yeah, but I saw John with a mohawk, and I'm thinking, and I like Mr. T.
Yeah.
Mr. T. So
He's got a little Mr. T.
yeah.
going
So I
there.
say I'm gonna get a Mr. T, and George Stark cut the mohawk.
Georgie cut it.
As in training camp, Carlisle.
We were in Carlisle, and I see Dexter for the first time. And I said, Dex, if you just put a little white paint down the middle of it, you'd look like a skunk.
Right. Yeah.
And Dex went out and tells it to the Washington Post. He said, Dex, that was just a joke between you and me.
You're right.
Yeah, it was. You remember that?
All right, Joe Jacoby, what were you thinking? This is the Theater Vision commercial that is legendary. Joe Jacoby and Mark May of the NFC Championship Washington Redskins. And Jake's wearing the coaching shorts. Remember the old there was band lawn shorts, the coaches shorts, and Mark May
double knit polyester.
Mark May was an Outland Trophy winner, wasn't he?
I think he was.
That is not built like an Outland Trophy winner, in my personal opinion. So Jake, what year
I agree
is
with
this?
you.
Gosh, I think 83.
Yeah, that probably would have been the same. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would have been. Yeah, it was
'cause
after
we won the Super Bowl already. It's after all that. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good look.
Basically, I wasn't thinking. No, you know what I was thinking?
Cash.
Because
cash on the barrel.
And they said you can have the TV, and I looked at the thing. I go, no, I'd rather have cash.
That's what it was. It was either or. You didn't get both.
So I took the cash.
No kidding. I was going to ask you, and you got a TV. What
Who
was
got
that
the
like?
TV? Who did he give the TV to?
It was either or. So
Probably,
the TV
probably
was
George Stark.
Yeah.
Starkey probably took it.
The TV was, back then they just started. It was with the
It literally
rear
was like a
projection.
flashlight going through a mirror. It was the first iteration of a big screen television. The ad was legendary because of the banner between
That
these
thing
two.
was so badly done. And I remember it vividly because we're doing it, and they're holding up notebook paper.
That's your cue card?
Yeah, that. And they had some young kid holding a VH camera. That's who was filming it.
That was the cameraman. And it wasn't even on a tripod.
No.
Yeah. Well, there's some certain amount of camp in
And
it.
correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, was what even made it more memorable. So there's one spot where you say in your voiceover, Joe Jacoby of the Super Bowl Washington Redskins. Well, then the next time they edited it because you guys hadn't made the Super Bowl or whatever else, and they had you say Joe Jacoby of the NFC champion Washington Redskins.
Oh, so they just used it next year
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Very primitive, very primitive. So the legend of Joe Jacoby and theater vision.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
He looks like
Is
a
theater
real
vision
stud
still
right
an
there.
entity? Or they got to be.
you
they could've
know,
made
it's now. I think it morphed into the big screen store.
Right.
I believe
I think
that is
that's
the,
you're
in the big
correct on
screen
that.
And they're still
store.
around?
Yes, yes, big in Maryland, up on Rockville Pike.
But
and-
That's right.
Are these locally made
Yeah,
televisions?
Well, the big now they're legit. Now they sell the big brands and
Yeah, the big
brands.
they were always known for higher end, but this was
Samsung, Sony,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
all the big deals.
We brought up
I don't know if
the
Sony even
lower
makes
end.
TVs anymore.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff though.
Wow.
All right, that's going to conclude this edition of What Were You Thinking? More to come. Some great historical photos of you gents and your various forms of dress and championship play. Jake, we thank you for stopping by the John
thank
Riggins
you.
Show.
No, thank you for
to
having
have
me
you in.
on. Enjoyed it.
It was
All
fun.
right.
Dex, always good to see you.
Likewise. Are we done?
We're done, Dex.
a wrap.
We're gearing up.
It's a
This
wrap.
is Friday. We got to gear up for the weekend at 4 o'clock. The Burgundy and Gold at the Arizona Cardinals, and we'll be checking back in with you on Tuesday on the next episode.
Of TJRS, the John Riggins Show.
Riggo out.